Hey everybody, welcome to the BIC Life Podcast, BIC Life Podcast, where we talk about life and faith in Jesus from a brethren in Christ perspective. We are here in our episode this month. My name is Ryan Stockton, and I'm joined as usual by my good friend Scott McFeet.
Hey, how's it going, Ryan?
Going okay. Going all right.
Well, I gotta ask quick, what's that behind you?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so today I'm recording in one of my son's bedrooms.
Oh.
It's we have one home sick, and my wife is in our bedroom / home office, and so I'm recording in my other son's bedroom, and that is a Philadelphia Union flag for MLS, the professional soccer league here in the States.
Okay.
We are big MLS fans, big Philadelphia Union fans in our
Awesome.
family, and so he's got a big old flag up on the wall. So that's my backdrop today.
Cool. I like how you got demoted to your son's room.
I know. Yeah, I get no respect.
Come on, son.
Yeah, I know. But he was very gracious in letting me use his room, so
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that. But,
Good.
So my other son is homesick today, and he's down playing the new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom video game.
Oh, so he's sick.
He's homesick. Yeah. My other son was home sick yesterday too, and so he got to play some extra. Yeah, but
I remember those days.
Yeah, they actually are sick, but they.
Oh darn, I'm sick.
Oh shucks. Guess I got to play some Tears of the Kingdom today.
Right. That's awesome.
So yes, I'm in my son's room, and it's actually not too bad. I think it has even better lighting than my home office where we usually record.
Yeah.
I think. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's a nice background. I like it. I like the Philadelphia Union background thing going on back there. But yeah, things are going all right. Things are going all right over here.
Good.
I recently ran a Tough Mudder a couple days ago, one of those obstacle course races. I don't know if you remember. I asked you if you wanted to run that with me, and you laughed a little too loudly in my face.
I did. It was at the Atlantic Conference.
At the Atlantic Conference General Meeting, I asked you.
And I said, what did I say? Well, does it involve heights? And you're like, yes. Does it involve getting dirty? Yes. Does it involve running? Yes. About a 5K, right?
It was a little under 10 miles. So 15K. Yeah.
So yeah, I
a little bit of running.
I don't do any of those things.
It was fun, but it was great. It was so much fun. The course was great. The mud was amazing this year.
Wow.
The obstacles were good, but I fell a little. So it's technically as a 15K, it's like 9.3 miles.
Yeah.
And with about a quarter mile left or a third of a mile left, I fell from one of the last obstacles. Fell kind of far, landed hard. I think I either pulled or partially teared my hamstring on my left leg. Mm-hmm. So I'm on crutches now, so that's fun.
Oh, and see, that's why I said no. Because I knew that kind of thing would happen to me for sure.
But I'll tell you, it's the first time I've done it. I've done 5 or 6 of these kinds of races. That's the first time I've gotten injured.
We are over 40 now, so...
I know. Yeah, this is the oldest I've ever been running one of these races. Next year, I think I'm going to be a little younger, so that'll be good.
Were you one of the oldest in the race?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. There are plenty of people older than me. Yeah.
Good. Okay, good.
Yeah. So, it's great fun. Those courses are just so much fun. So I look forward to you doing it with me next year.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw on TV there's like a 5K one. I'd be more open to that. I think I could handle that, but with a little bit of running beforehand to prep, but
there's a 5K, a 10K, and a 15K. And so I did the 5K last year, and it was fun, but it was like 100 degrees that day.
Oh goodness.
And full sun, and so a 5K was killer. But the weather was perfect this past weekend, and it was the course was great. So the 15K was just about right. I just had to drag my leg across the finish line for the last quarter mile or so.
Wow. You have like the Braveheart theme running through your head as you're running across the finish line.
Well, the medics came up to me and they're like, "Do you need a cart?" I was like, No. I have already ran over 9 miles of this. I am not stopping now.
Oh my goodness.
Like if it had happened around mile 3 or 4 or something like that, I would have had to be carted off. But I was like, no. I have done over 9 miles. I'm finishing this race.
So, okay. Just not to prolong this, but I like fitness, right?
Yeah.
So I hate cardio. I hate running. My lungs feel like they're gonna fall out of my chest.
Yep.
And so last night, Amanda and I, when the weather's nice, we like to get out and walk, and we haven't done it in a while because, well, we just came off of winter.
Sure.
But last night we went over to the YMCA here in Willow Street, and they have a really nice park out back and a really long trail. It's about a mile long, just the perimeter of it. So we went around 3 times just walking.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
When I was done, my legs were like twitching all over the place. Like we started out at a great pace, and then lap 2, I'm like, I think we're gonna have to slow down a little bit, honey. Like I just can't do this.
Yeah.
So I need to get out there and condition my walking.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, you would do well with the obstacles themselves.
Yeah.
You would love those. So it's a little over 9 miles, but there are 30 plus obstacles.
Okay.
So it's just crammed.
So the obstacles are almost like a break.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
Yeah. They are. That's great, man. Well, sorry you're injured, but you survived.
It's fine. Of all the things that could be wrong, the recovery for this consists of rest for a couple of months. And if that's what it takes to heal from an injury, I'm doing okay. I'm not gonna need surgery, not gonna need to, like whatever. So crutches for a few weeks and then rest for another few weeks. I should be fine.
Okay.
But,
good. So it's like you want me to rest and just sit down and like watch TV. I can do that.
Yeah. Right? Oh shucks. I guess I'm gonna have to work from my couch today because I can't.
Good thing Zelda came out.
Yeah, I know. Wee.
Anyway,
but speaking, I got a segue. Speaking of surviving in difficult conditions, first I got a couple of silly articles here. So if you had to survive for 5 days in the wilderness eating only candy, what candy would you choose?
Oh man. I'm assuming protein bars don't count, right?
Yeah,
like hard candy, chocolate, what? Just any kind of candy?
Any kind of candy, but no protein bars.
Well, I'm just gonna choose my favorite, which would be the mini Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, that's a good choice.
After like day 2, I'll probably die from a sugar, an excess of sugar. But hey, at least I'll be happy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I thought about maybe a Snickers. Ooh. That's like got a lot of stuff in it. That's almost cheating though. That's almost like
I used to think, when I was in my college days, I used to work out back then too, but I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. And so a friend of mine would meet at the gym at LBC, and we'd put in like an hour-long workout, and I'm shocked we didn't injure ourselves because, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. And then I'd go to Sheetz, and I'd be like, oh man, I really need something. So I'd get like a Snickers bar and a chocolate milk. Oh.
Yeah. So Sheetz, for those of you who are not local to the Northeast here.
Oh, yeah.
Sheetz is not a restaurant. It is
I was just gonna say they say, hey, that they basically are a restaurant.
Yeah, right? You go make a Sheetz run.
It's a gas station.
It's a gas station. Yeah, it's like there's Wawa is around here. I don't know what the equivalents would be out in California or in the middle of the country or anything like that. But Sheetz is just a gas station. But yeah, it's
more than a gas station.
It's more than a gas station. Yeah, there's a great video that came out years ago when the first Frozen came out. And there are all these spoofs of "Do you want to build a snowman?"
Yeah,
a song came out. One of them is "Do you want to make a Sheetz run?"
And Sheets of pizza.
Oh my gosh! So we're derailing here. Yes. So surviving on candy. The first article I've got here: how wine and candy helped an Australian woman survive 5 days in the bushland. So there's a woman named Lillian, that's the only way she's being identified, who was lost in the Australian bush for 5 days, who survived on wine and candy.
Well, you need sugar. I mean, you do. The problem is we just have too much of it every day, and most of us just sit like you and I are doing right now.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I
Right.
suppose if you're surviving, you're probably trying to get out of the wilderness and you're
Yeah.
expending energy and all that.
Yeah.
So
She
I
was
guess that's better
driving to
than nothing.
go. She was driving to visit her mom and visit her mom. The bottle of wine was for her mom.
Uh-huh.
She herself doesn't drink, but the bottle of wine was for her mom. She bought some candy and snacks for the trip. It's only supposed to be a couple hour trip. Made a wrong turn. Ended up in the bush. No cell service. She's out in the middle of
Oh,
nowhere. The car got stuck in mud, and she was stuck for 5 days. So her
wow.
only liquid was the wine. So eventually she broke down and had
Yeah.
the whole bottle over the course of 5 days.
Wow.
Candy was eventually found, treated in
Mm,
the hospital, and appears to be no worse for the wearer. But yeah, that's a survival obstacle course right there.
goodness.
That's
Yeah. No thanks.
yeah, no thanks. Oh my gosh. So then the next article, which I thought was just so hilarious, in Germany, a German surgeon fired. This is the headline from Associated Press. German surgeon fired after getting hospital cleaner to assist with an amputation. So,
What?
so apparently this happened in the year 2020, so a few years ago, but just kind of came out in the news. There's a hospital in western part of Germany, Mainz University Hospital. There is a surgeon who is amputating a patient's toe, and there were no qualified assistants around. And so the guy, the patient, only had local anesthesia and was starting to get restless. So the surgeon called in the janitor, had him hold his leg down, and pass him the surgical instruments
Wow.
while the doctor amputated his toe.
Wow.
Yeah.
See
So
that
apparently
see that long blade over there?
yeah,
Can you pass that?
yeah. See those really big scissors? I'm gonna need those.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
isn't that nuts?
I mean, if all he's doing is assisting, I mean,
And holding the leg down, like. Can you imagine getting that call? Like you're out there mopping the floors, and you look through the window of the operating theater and you see the doctor looking at you, like waving his hand, dude, get in here. Like,
where
wait,
was this
what?
again?
This is in
Germany.
Germany.
Germany. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if everybody called off sick, I guess, what are you gonna do? Like,
I mean, you postpone the surgery, right? It doesn't
I
sound like it's
I
amputating a
guess.
toe. It doesn't sound like it's a immediate life or death.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't know. But apparently another doctor walked by the operating theater and saw this janitor in there holding bloody instruments and things like that and holding the thing down. And that's how it was found out about it. The doctor has since been fired and all that. But apparently the patient, like there was no complications from the surgery or anything. The patient's doing just fine. But it was like, yeah, whoops.
Well, they had the right person in to clean up after.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I guess
terrible.
so. So yeah, hey, thanks for helping us out. Can you just stick
Yeah.
around and help clean up here? Grab your mop, come on in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Would you have said yes? Like if you were the janitor out there mopping, would you be like, yeah, this seems legit. I'll help.
Well, no, but only because that kind of stuff makes me very queasy.
Oh,
So
I'd have been on the
I
floor.
would be the worst person
Yeah.
to be in there. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're no good around blood?
Nope. Nope. I don't watch
Yeah.
the shows. I can't. It's hard. It's hard enough to honestly. It's hard enough to make hospital visits. For me,
Mm,
I've always been like very like I get lightheaded, and it's just so. Anyway, it's a
yeah.
matter of prayer anytime I have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. God, give me the strength.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess it takes a certain amount of strength to be a hospital janitorial staff person.
Yeah.
I
Oh
would
yeah.
imagine that is not a job for the faint of heart, I would
Mm-mm.
imagine. So, good on this guy, even if that
Yeah.
was not the room he should have been in. But
So let me ask
yeah.
you:
Yeah.
is that article in any way connected with our topic today?
Well, we're not talking about amputations in the Brethren in Christ, but we are talking about cleaning
Uh-huh.
and feet to a certain extent.
There we
For
go.
those who have been a part of the Brethren in Christ, for a little while. You might be able to put that together. We're talking about foot washing today as our main story. And as happens sometimes when we look at a topic, we've got an article that can help springboard us into the topic. So in the publication Anabaptist World, with the subtitle Mennonite News Inspiring Stories. I had never heard of this publication, but it's a thing. So you can check it out, anabaptistworld.org. So on that website, they tell the story, and I'm going to see if I can give a succinct summation of this. There's in Ethiopia, there are some warring factions, different ethnic groups that have been fighting each other, and then rebellions. Rebel groups against the government there and things like that. And there have been some groups working on peace building, specifically Mesorite. I'm going to slaughter this name. Mesorite Christos Church. Mesorite Christos Church. It's an Anabaptist church in Ethiopia, and they've been working on peace building. And one of these peace building trainings that they did, the pastor or one of the directors of the peace building there demonstrated humility and service by doing a foot washing service. And he invited a Muslim and a Christian up to the front to wash, so that he could wash both of their feet. And people didn't think he was going to do it, but he did. And it made a huge impression on this one guy. One of the guys who got up there to have his feet washed was a guy named Durgu Balena. And he was from an ethnic group which was doing a lot of armed conflict with the government and had killed people from other ethnic groups there in Ethiopia. He was so impacted by this and persuaded by this peace building training that he decided to start working for peace amongst some rebel ethnic groups. So, and this is a part that I find fascinating. He went to the local government and asked for a gun and bullets.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
But he's so persuaded to pursue peace, he went to the government and asked for a gun and bullets. And the reason he did this was so that he could, I guess, kind of give him some cred to go join a rebel group and work for peace from the inside.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And so he's like, I'm going to go into this group and start working for peace from the inside, but I need a gun and some bullets to give me the cred to get in there. And the government, even more unbelievably, said, sounds good.
Yeah.
Like, they said yes, which is crazy to me. So he gets this gun and the bullets, and he goes, and for months he joins in with this group, and he starts this grassroots, like talking about peace building and doing activities with them, and eventually leads like 600 of these rebel fighters to lay down their guns, start pursuing civil talks with the government and laying out their issues and demands, and they ended up having fruitful conversations. And he's now working for peace building efforts in Ethiopia. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it is fascinating. And it started with a foot washing service, which I thought was amazing. Now I've seen foot washing services be impactful, but this was crazy.
Yeah.
What did you think when you saw this article?
I mean, I was blown away. I was actually wondering, like, it wasn't just a service, like it was a service within some sort of training.
Right. Yes.
And I'm like, oh, so this guy already like thought, I think he was already like, you know what, this, guerrilla fighting is not working. So maybe these guys over here have something to, that works.
Yeah. He was already at this training. So I don't know if he was required, like caught and captured and required to attend this training, or if he volunteered and signed up for this sort of training. The fact that he was there in the first place means that there was some sort of seed planted.
Still, it's
to say that violence isn't the answer, but
and in our world, you and I would have had this whole event planned out. We would, so the first 10 minutes we're gonna do the welcome. And then we're gonna move into, our guest speaker is gonna come in, and then we're gonna have some worship, and then afterward we're gonna close with a 15-20 minute segment of foot washing, and then no, this was more like this guy, I can't pronounce his name, was like, you know what, I'm gonna wash people's feet as an act of service, and nobody believed he'd even do it. So,
and a Muslim and a Christian, which he washed both of their feet, which is
that really, alone speaks a lot.
So what would the equivalent here be? Like Republican and Democrat? Like
I don't know.
It seems almost like you talk about warring factions here in the States.
Right. Yeah. Super extreme. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, so I found it fascinating because our church recently did its first foot washing service. It's a newer
first with you or first with your church period? Oh, wow.
First for the church. So we're not an old church, but we're also not new either. We were started in the mid 90s. But it's just not been a part of our practice.
Yeah.
But being in Brethren in Christ, I know it's a part of it's part of our logo, for Pete's sake, the towel and basin, part of the BIC logo.
It is actually.
And so I know it's a big deal. I know a lot of churches do it and stuff. And I was like, I love the idea, the symbolism, all that kind of stuff. So we did it for the first time this year during the Easter season. And it blew us away. We had far more people come and participate than we even thought was possible. People were weeping, and just it was an incredible experience for our church, for our people. And people are so excited to do it again. And I'm really excited about that. It's really cool. And so I saw some really cool and powerful moments at our church, but I was blown away by the effects from this instance of it in Ethiopia.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, I mean, okay, so as we get into this topic, like, we're not saying foot washing is like the antidote or the answer to our problems.
No, not a silver bullet.
That was a God thing that happened over there.
Yeah.
And at your church, that was definitely a God thing. That was he blessed that moment, and that was really impactful.
Yeah, you can't manufacture. Yeah, it's like trying to say, hey, let's have a revival.
Right.
Let's go on ahead and plan to have a revival.
Schedule this, and we're going to bring a bunch of people out, and
Yeah, you're right. That's a good call, Scott.
Well, and I hate to say it, that can work too. I have air quotes going on, but only by the grace of God. So, yeah.
No, you're right on.
And it sounds like in both cases, in the article's case and in your church's case, the hearts were right. You had a right posture going into that foot washing service. It wasn't like a thing where, like, oh, I checked this off. Now I'm more holy.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it was novel. I think it was novel for us and for that situation in Ethiopia. I think it was because we haven't done it before. It was new, and it really hit people in a certain kind of way. When it's new. So we'll see. I mean, I would love for it to become a part of our regular rhythm, even if it's just once a year. But we'll see if it ever becomes rote. We'll see if it's something that we want to continue with or take a break from for a little while.
I didn't always know what rote meant, but that just means like a pattern that you just kind of do because you just do it, like memorized.
Yeah, you do it without feeling or
muscle memory. It's not heart.
Rote, ROTE.
Yeah.
Yes, a little English lesson here.
College words.
That's an SAT word right there.
So I was gonna say my church. Is your church is how old? 1995?
Yeah, mid 90s. I think it was 98, 95, maybe 95.
We've traced our roots back to, I mean, technically on paper it's 1913, but it's a little sooner than that because we were, our church was like a branch off of a community like kind of thing that was going on here in Strasbourg. So we're well over 100 years old.
Yeah. Wow.
And I've been attending here. My wife and I have been attending here since, the fall of 2011. And foot washing has been a practice that stemmed way before that. Like, I don't know if there was ever, I can't say this for sure, but I don't know if there was ever a time when foot washing here was not practiced like once a year, typically on Maundy Thursday. That's the that's the Thursday before Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
For those listening. But now at our church, we pretty much followed this is going to be backwards, but this thing called a minister's manual. I thought every BIC pastor gets this, but I showed this to Ryan a minute ago and he's like, what is that?
I don't have one of those.
Well, this book is it's helpful. It has a whole lot of different kinds of services in there from a BIC perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to run a communion service or a baptism service, and it has some examples of how you could do that and the liturgy behind it. And I often change the language because it was printed in 1991, and it's just like, wow, it just back then it probably felt old. So because of the language, like it's pretty yeah.
Yeah,
But
ours was not very formal.
yeah, so it's pretty formal in there, and it says that typically the deacons at your church are the ones that run this service. Your pastor will do a little like mini sermon, very mini, like devotional kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of lays out, what you would do or how you could do it. I mean, you're free to do it however you want, but
Yeah.
it does suggest that you have the men go into one room and the women go into another.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the foot
Mm-hmm.
washing part of it is done, you all join back together in the sanctuary for the remainder of the service,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was interesting and kind of telling because I know, thinking about where our culture is today.
Mm.
Man, I mentioned this to you off mic, well, and through emails, we were talking about this.
Yeah.
When I first became pastor, lead pastor here at Refton, um, I was thinking about this whole like foot washing thing and doing my own research. And one of the things that popped up that shocked me was how prevalent something like foot fetishes are in our culture. So I Googled it
Uh,
again because I was back in like 2019 when I became pastor.
mm,
I Googled it again just before we started this
mm,
live stream, and there was
yeah.
if I remember right, there was a 2022 survey that said 1 in 10 people, Americans, have admitted to having a foot fetish, and then there was another 2023 study that said 1 in 7. That's a whole lot higher of a percentage than I ever would have guessed. So then,
1 in 7.
yeah, so that's where my question of like, well, if we're gonna do this, we need to be able to put some safeguards in, and it does kind of sound
Mm,
like whoever wrote this minister's manual in 1991, like, they were already thinking about that kind of stuff, the
mhm.
level of appropriateness. Now in our
Yeah.
culture today, you might have a bit more of a dynamic with things that are going on right now. Um,
Sure. Yeah. So,
but
yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
I think uh, from my experience, I've participated in foot washing services before,
Mhm.
um, and I'm just speaking for me.
Yeah.
It's those services were meaningful. Um, God definitely used those services. Um, I'm not one that I don't. It would be a rare day. You will catch me without my socks on and shoes. That's just kind of how
I
I
could see you
am.
try. I could see the wheels turning. How to say
Right.
this
Yeah.
tactfully?
How do I say this that I'm not offending anybody? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm not a flip-flop guy. Like I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
that is not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, feet have always been kind of a private thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of weird. And
Mm-hmm.
I personally, I'll just say I do not struggle with like the foot fetish stuff, but like
Mm-hmm. Right.
add that into the mix and it's like who knows who's struggling or what position I'm putting someone in. Now you could say, well, they just won't come out. And I know plenty of people that they've said to me, when we had our on Monday, Thursday last year or this past Monday, Thursday, we
Mm-hmm.
did a communion slash Thursday evening meal. And there were several people that were concerned that we were going to do foot washing. And they're like, look, if you're doing foot washing, I don't think I'm going to be there for that. And I'm like, yeah, number one, we weren't planning on doing foot washing, and they were fine with that. But number two, I think for them it was just like this. It really makes people uncomfortable And so I guess the question, Ryan, is foot washing a command or not? Should we, because I've had someone say, well, we should be doing it because Jesus said right there in John 13 that, we need to be doing this. And so I thought maybe it'd be helpful to look at that.
Yeah.
And then just kind of, talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, John 13, I have it pulled up here, near the end after he washes their feet. So starting in verse 15 or 14.
Yeah.
Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Verse 17, now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So verse 14 says you also should wash one another's feet. And then verse 17, you will be blessed if you do them. I could see how someone says this is a command, but to me, it doesn't seem as hard and fast. I think it's one of those things that's like, well, we're going to be blessed if we do this.
Yeah.
And so I think we could be missing out on a different kind of blessing that we could, might not receive otherwise if we don't engage in it. But at the same time, I don't think it doesn't seem to be something
your congregation just experienced that. You just said that was a huge blessing. It sounded like it anyway.
Yeah. There was a guy who came up to me after the service and he's like, dude, Ryan, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, man, you got me feeling the spirit and crying and all this kind of stuff. I was like, I know, me too. So, we can be tremendously blessed from these kinds of services and these kinds of acts. But, I've talked with, some other BIC pastors who don't practice foot washing in their churches, and they try to find the modern day equivalents, right? So the foot washing was the job it was a servant's job. It was the job that nobody really wanted to do. It was gross. And so like, what are the equivalents now? The things that nobody wants to do, but it displays a tremendous amount of service and humility and others centeredness, valuing the other, things like that. And I don't think that that's wrong. Like, I don't think that that's a wrong way to take this scripture, this passage, or interpret it or apply it. I don't think it's wrong. But I also don't think it's wrong to say, let's do actual foot washing, because one of the things, like when we did it with our church, one of the things that we leaned into was the weirdness of it. We leaned into it. Like whenever I first announced it, you could see people visibly going, ugh, what we're doing. Yeah. You want me to do what? And so we just leaned into it. We're like, yeah. So we recognize that the first reaction is probably going to be, ew. And you know what? It's kind of gross, but that's also kind of the point. It's weird, it's gross, it's what, and especially nowadays when it's not as quote unquote needed, when we're not a walking society, walking on dirt roads everywhere we go, and
or running muddy obstacle courses.
I saw people running those courses in their bare feet. Like,
I bet
people are hardcore and weird, but anyway.
But awesome,
But awesome, yeah. Oh my goodness, feet of steel.
Yeah.
They wash their feet with steel wool. That's what they do.
Man.
Yeah. But yeah, because it's so weird, it was that impactful. And we encouraged people to come and observe. You don't have to participate, but we'd love for everyone to come, but not everyone has to participate. And so we'd like people to come and at least observe the foot washing ceremony part of the service. And so we did, and plenty of people came just to observe, but ended up participating. Like we had probably 20 or so people show up not intending to participate, but who ended up actually participating and being so thankful that they did. To your point, it won't be as impactful for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a God moment. It's nothing we can manufacture.
Yeah. Did I say that on air? I don't know if I said that yet.
Oh, maybe didn't, but
we were talking before
yeah, maybe
I
I'm
hit
getting
record
confused about when we
and
had our conversations. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, so like for me, this is a personal thing, by the way. It doesn't mean it has to be for you or anybody else,
Mm,
but for me,
mm,
it's not as impactful
mm,
as if it. I don't know how to say this. Um, if I'm doing it on some sort of regular basis, I have a fear that it's not going to be as impactful for me. Like
mm,
I've done it a few times in my life, and those points were pretty meaningful with the people that I was with. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just wonder, like, for me, if this is all I do, am I pigeonholing myself? So
mm.
this command, well, first of all, it's not a command,
Right.
which you already said, but like even in the Greek, there's no command there.
Mm,
There's no imperative Greek word in there that makes it
there
a
you go.
command. And verse 17, you will be blessed if you do them. That's plural. So that's talking about more than one thing. It's not just
Mm,
talking about washing people's feet. And so the question becomes like, why was that so impactful for them? And you already touched on it. It was like something that nobody wanted to do, but it was more than that. It was like, um, if you were a Jew, you didn't do it. Only
mm,
Only Gentile servants did this.
mm,
So it was like really unheard of. And even prior to Jesus and in ancient history, Old Testament history, this was a regular practice when people entered into each other's homes, because everybody wore sandals.
mm.
Sandals back then were barely like our soles inside of our shoe,
Yeah.
that with a couple straps on it, like barely that.
Yeah.
So when you went into someone's home, like, or tent or whatever, like, it was dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And they always had a basin there. And if they didn't have a servant, like a Gentile kind of servant to wash your feet, you did that yourself, because it was just too, like, you washed your own feet.
Mm-hmm.
It was too, as you said, low of a
Mm,
position kind of thing. Like you just didn't do that.
yeah.
I had to nerd out a little bit
Yeah.
before I met with you today. So I was
Yeah.
curious. I'm like, well, how many times does it talk about washing feet in the Bible? Because I know it only mentions it a couple times in the New Testament.
Mm,
Well, three times that I know of. I think there was that time in Luke where was it Mary who washed Jesus's feet with her
mm-hmm.
hair?
Yeah.
And Jesus, actually she did that because some other guy wouldn't wash Jesus's feet. And then we have
Yeah.
this one in John 13, which is very symbolic. And then we have one in First Timothy, I believe it was, with the widow. So a widow who is over 60, I think, is qualified for certain things if she shows good character. And one of the examples of showing good character is washing the believer's feet.
Mm,
But in the Old Testament, it actually talks about it a whole lot more than I realized.
yeah.
So can you guess what's the first book that foot washing comes up in?
Oh goodness, you're putting me on the spot here.
Just take a guess.
Even if you didn't put me on the spot, I wouldn't. Even if I had 20 minutes to think about this,
Just
I
take a
couldn't get it right.
guess.
Exodus.
Oh, you're so close. You're one book off. Genesis.
Love Genesis. I was like, all
18
right, which
chapters
direction? Which
in.
direction?
18 chapters in. If you remember when Abraham, sitting by himself in front of his tent, all of a sudden had three visitors. And we ended up from
Ah,
Genesis 19, we know two of them are
yeah,
angels.
right.
This is right before Yahweh God judges Sodom and Gomorrah and all that.
Mm,
And Abraham like pleads, for, I
mm-hmm.
believe, Sodom, because
Yeah,
his family, Lot, and
yeah, right.
people were
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, these three visitors approach Abraham, and right away, he offers them rest under a tree and to wash their feet because they were
Mm,
just traveling, and that was the
yeah.
normal, like, customary thing to do. Actually, he said, then you may all wash your feet. So he wasn't going to do that for them. Sorry, guys. You're going to do that yourself. But
Yeah.
to get a basin, like you said in our logo, the basin and the
Right,
towel,
yeah.
like that was what you did. So there's plenty of examples in Genesis. I won't go over all of them, but you're right. Exodus, it comes out. So maybe you were thinking about this in Exodus because it's was it Exodus or was it Leviticus? I think it was Exodus. Yes, Exodus. Uh Aaron and his sons were to wash their hands and their feet um you know before they would walk into like the sacred space.
Yeah. I thought it might have had something to do with ritual cleansing and
Yes. Yeah.
things like that. So, which is why I said Exodus, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
remember.
Well,
I didn't remember about
you're right.
Genesis.
It has everything to do with ritual cleansing because it says, look, if you don't wash your feet, even if everything else is clean, if you don't wash your feet, like you're risking death. So that's
Oof.
how serious it was. When you approach God, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like washing feet symbolized, um, purification of sins and that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, Funny thing is, later on though, there was a branch of teaching that was exactly that. Baptism and washing of the feet were linked, like and
Hmm.
linked to like forgiveness of sins and that kind of stuff. Now we're talking after Jesus, like
Yeah, I was gonna say, when are we talking here?
second, third, fourth century,
Oh yeah.
and so this guy, oh goodness, I
Mr.
can't remember.
Footwashing McGee.
Mr. Footwashing McGee. His name started with
Yeah.
an A. I can't remember. If I find it, I'll put it up on the screen.
Amos
Um,
Footwashing McGee.
he
Maybe.
argued in front of all the the council that was there. The I forget which council this was, but he argued that they should be doing this, and that because it was like this important ritual,
Mm.
while others were arguing that they shouldn't be doing it all. And then Augustine, you've probably heard of him,
Hmm.
he came along around the same time and said, no, we should be doing it, but it's symbolic of,
Mm.
it's a pattern of what the Lord did for his disciples in
Hmm.
humility. And actually that's that word.
Hmm.
I have in John 13:15, I have set you an example. Jesus says, I have set you an example. It's a pattern
Hmm. Hmm.
that you should do as I have done for you. And some scholars said it's not just washing feet, like Jesus died for them. So there's a
Yeah.
pattern.
Yeah.
The
Right.
ultimate
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah. The self-sacrificial love that Jesus consistently modeled in
Yeah.
different ways for his people.
So I think you're right on in saying, like, look, what are ways, whether it's foot washing or something else in our own culture today, what
Mm.
are radical ways in which we as believers can pattern ourselves after Jesus in
Mm.
serving those around us,
Hmm.
each other and those around us. So
Hmm. Yeah.
um yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, like, volunteering at Water Street or whatever, that's great. But I just wonder, like, that's still not like we should be doing that kind of stuff. I'm not
Hmm.
saying we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But for some reason that it's like, what is something that we would never do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just like socially we would just never do that. And then
Hmm.
yet do it anyway because it's a need. That's the thing with foot washing originally, like in Genesis 18. It was a need. Um
Hmm.
and even in Jesus's culture, the first century, it was still a need. Not everybody was riding around in chariots.
Hmm.
So, uh, what's
Right.
what's the need today? I feel like I'm preaching a sermon here, but
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
feel free to jump in, Ryan.
Let's ask those rhetorical questions. Give people
Right?
something to think about on their way out.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, yeah. I mean, it's tricky because it's not just serving people, but serving people in a way that costs you.
yes,
You
yeah,
know, and something that um, it's not even something that you would brag about
right.
either. You know what I mean? Like I'm really I was floored about what happened at the foot washing service at our church this past Easter season.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm excited to share about and stuff. But Jesus washing his disciples' feet wouldn't have been something that he or they bragged about, or touted or talked to other people about much. It was scandalous. And it was scandalous to wash the sandalless. Scandalous to wash the sandal. Wow, boy, that's hey, good job, Ryan. That was great. But like these days, you go and you serve at a homeless shelter, or you serve a Thanksgiving dinner for those who are jobless or whatever, and you Instagram that, and you get culture points, social points. Hey, look at you, isn't this great? But what are the things that we can do that are costly? You don't usually Instagram you cleaning a clog in your neighbor's toilet. Or whatever it might be, like that's the stuff that you do in quiet submission and quiet service to someone else. So what are those things? I don't know. There's probably as many options as there are people in relational situations. But yeah, what are some things that we can do to show people love and service that cost us something, be it financial or otherwise? But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about what those could possibly be. And you could really get some, if you get some creative imagination going, you can just find endless ways to serve that are, would be fascinating.
I'm looking something up here. Where is that in James about giving your jacket or your cloak or something? Oh, there it is. James chapter 2. Suppose a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes also comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, "Here's a good seat for you," but say to the poor man, "You stand there," or "Sit on the floor by my feet," have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? And I thought there was something about giving your jacket, though. Anyway.
Well, there's the passage in the Sermon on the Mount talking about if someone sues you for your shirt, give them your coat also.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know.
That's Matthew 6.
Maybe I'm merging both. But I was thinking this morning, like, and as silly as this sounds, trust me, I understand this is. I almost hesitate to even give this as an example of like humble servitude. So maybe 2 seasons ago now, marching band seasons ago.
Okay.
I was at a marching band show called a coalition. This is where a whole bunch of marching bands come together and we perform to each other. We're not judged or anything. It's not a competition. It's a coalition. So it's just
it's not an adjudication. It's
it's just all the bands get to watch each other and it's fun. And like 1,000 people are cheering for you on the sideline. Yeah, it's awesome. Wow. So anyway, and I'm like at this point probably 38 years old, and I'm the percussion instructor of the LS marching band. Like my job is to be in charge of the drum line. So you would think I'm responsible, right? Well, it's probably late October, and it's one of those days where it was warm during the day. Like we were, on a coalition day, you get to the school early and you practice for a few hours before you make the drive out to the show. And it was warm. And so I didn't think to bring a jacket. Well, it got really cold that evening when the sun went down and we started performing. And I had an assistant who was a college guy. He's an assistant drumline instructor and really nice guy. I don't know if he's a believer or not, but he modeled example of humble servitude to me that night because I felt like my pride was about as low as it gets. As the guy in charge. And he could see that I was like really struggling because it was so cold, and I called my wife and she couldn't make it out, to bring me a jacket or anything. And so he's like, dude, I have a jacket in the car. I can go get it for you. You can wear my jacket all night. I don't care. And I'm like, you know how it is. It's kind of like,
yeah.
I don't really want to be a burden, right? And then finally,
Yeah.
I was so cold, I just gave in. I'm like, sure, and he did. He went and got it, and so I'm wearing his jacket with his name on it,
Yeah.
all night. And everybody's like, "Why are you wearing his jacket?" Of course, then you got to tell the story. Well,
Yeah.
because I wasn't responsible enough to remember my own. And he's in college. He's like
Yeah.
basically, invincible when you're that age. So,
Yeah. Yeah. My gosh.
so I realize that's not a perfect example, but it's like there is an example of where, in a way, my own pride was like tested, my own
Mm-hmm.
humility, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, he didn't think twice. He's just like, no, it's not a problem. Like I don't need a jacket. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can keep
Mm-hmm.
it. Like
Yeah.
that's I
Yeah.
wore it home and then gave it to him the
Yeah.
next time I saw him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't
Well,
know.
that's
I know
cool.
that's a little thing, but that meant a lot to me, and I never told him
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I'm sure he listens to this podcast.
sure.
So,
Oh, I'm sure he
so
does.
I'm
Yeah,
sure he's heard it. He's at home. Hey, honey, do you hear this story?
yeah,
That was me.
yeah. But I guess my point is there's all these little ways in which people impact us. So
Yeah.
he met a need, or
Hmm.
like a real need,
Yeah.
um, and there was a humbling aspect to it. Now,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
it's like, well, how can we be more aware, to people around us, to their needs, and to
Hmm.
meet their needs, in that kind of way.
Right.
Um, and that's not to say we shouldn't program uh services like you guys programmed a foot washing service.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know when Jesus is talking about setting an example or setting a pattern for us, that's like a
Mhm.
life, day by day pattern that
Yeah.
we live out, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I like about that, Scott, about your story there is that it seems like such an ordinary thing, like that's an ordinary moment that
Yeah.
someone was able to step into. And I
Mhm.
feel like this foot washing thing, in some ways it was an ordinary moment because, like what you were talking about, this is a thing that happened a lot in the
Yeah.
culture at the time. It's an ordinary thing, but when Jesus did it, it made it extraordinary
Yeah.
because he was a rabbi, because he was a Jew washing other Jews' his feet. um and like it was an extraordinary thing
Yeah.
out
Well,
of an ordinary moment.
well,
And I
Peter was
feel like if
shocked, right?
yeah. So, I mean, so I feel like if we can take these moments in our lives, kind of create, like I was talking before, this creative imagination
Mm.
to say, what are some ordinary moments that I can kind of have a radar up? Like I'm hoping by doing foot washing services in our church, kind of creating or helping us to develop a radar
Mhm.
for these while we practice an actual foot washing, even though it is symbolic. We're not like sitting there scrubbing each other's toenails and stuff.
Right,
It's a
right.
very ritualistic, pour water over and then dry with a towel. It's very, it's not, this is symbolic foot washing,
Yeah.
just like our communion is a symbolic meal that we take together to
Yeah,
remember.
good point. Yeah.
So it's a symbolic thing, but it is a physical practice. So just like we do that, I'm hoping that it can help us develop the radar for the modern day equivalents. So we've
Mm.
always got that, the dish, going around at the top of our heads, with the radar up to search for those ordinary moments that we can step into that maybe no one else would step into,
Yeah.
and just trying to find ways to love people in service oriented ways, in ways that put, quite literally, elevate or put other people first over our own needs or over our own social status or standing. Yeah, whatever it is, and whatever it costs us
Mm.
to be able to think in those ways, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And sometimes an actual foot washing service can help us at least train ourselves in that mode of thinking.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's like Jesus didn't say this about foot washing, but he did say this about, uh, the Last Supper, when you drink of this cup, when you eat of this bread, do this in remembrance of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, that same attitude could be applied to the pattern that he's talking about with foot washing and the other things that we do in service of others. Like we do those. It's not just like, yeah, I do this for the Lord. I do this in remembrance of the Lord. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, it can be an act of worship as well as service.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me, I wanted to see if we could tie some of these into some BIC core
Oh
values.
yeah,
Like,
great.
why is this such a big deal for us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a big deal for the Anabaptists. They kind of,
Yes.
as the Anabaptists were starting their thing, we talked about the Anabaptist roots last month in our last episode with Matthew Peterson, theologian in residence of the Great Lakes Conference. But the Anabaptist movement brought foot washing back into prominence of practical tangible practice and faith.
Yeah.
And as I was looking at some of our core values, numbers 4 through 8. So I highlighted just 5 of them. Following Jesus. We value wholehearted obedience to Christ Jesus through the empowering presence of the Holy Spirit. So kind of following the template of Jesus, the model of Jesus. Like what you were just talking about, it being an act of worship as well as service. Jesus didn't just give us teachings to follow and obey. He gave us a model to live like.
Yeah.
He gave us a template to follow. So it's not just about believing the right things in the right way and with the right perspective. It was about living a certain way. And he
Right.
modeled that. So following Jesus, I thought, was a big one.
Yeah.
As you look at some of the other core values, do you have them there in front of you? What other ones pop
I
off for
don't.
you?
I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's
I
fine.
don't have them in
Well,
front of me.
so belonging to the community of faith, I thought this was a one that would really, we value integrity in relationships, mutual accountability, and atmosphere of grace, love, and acceptance. There is not much greater act of acceptance than washing someone else's feet and having your own feet be washed by someone else. Witnessing to the world, we value an active and loving witness for Christ to all people. When during our Easter season, we advertised our Easter service. We had a big Easter event to our community that we advertised, had lots of people come in and participate and come into the building and all this kind of stuff. Our Good Friday service, we didn't advertise. We did it for Good Friday service. I know it's usually a Maundy Thursday thing, but we did ours for the Good Friday service. And that was like an in-house intimate, hey, this is for us kind of a thing. But it can be an incredibly tangible witness to the world in the ways that we serve and love each other.
Yeah.
So I thought that was one. Serving compassionately. We value serving others at their point of need, following the example of our Lord Jesus. That gets a lot to what you were talking about. So it's a need. It was an actual physical need back when it was actually a regular practice in life in the time of Jesus. But yeah, serving others at point of need, the guy giving you his coat, you know, when you were cold. And then pursuing peace. We value all human life and promote forgiveness, understanding, reconciliation, and nonviolent resolution of conflict. I mean, what greater example of this do you need than the article that we just read for that got us springboarded onto this topic? So those are the ones that stood out to me. So
yeah, that's really good. Yeah. I think, I don't know if this is a good landing point, but I just can't help but think of the word posture. That has been, somebody said that in one of my pastor cluster groups that I meet with once a month. Said that early on this year. I think it was like December or January. And I just immediately like resonated with me when they were talking about the posture of our heart. Not that I had never thought of it before, but for whatever reason, it just hit me. And I just had that thought of like, this is going to be like that thing that keeps coming back this year for me, at least, maybe. Like, what is the posture of my heart? And when I think of foot washing, what's the servant doing? Look at the posture of the servant.
Yeah.
Like,
They're on their
wow,
knee.
you're on your knees. You're vulnerable. I mean, if you want to be really, if you want to enact exactly what Jesus was doing, like you basically just have a towel around yourself.
Right. Yeah. We didn't do that, but yeah.
But just like, so here's Jesus on his knee, like, the Messiah on his knees, serving his people in that way. And like, you just didn't do that in that culture. That posture of the heart, the pattern of the heart is so impactful. So,
and as you talk about that posture, the core value of witnessing to the world, what an incredible opportunity for witness to our world is that kind of posture. Like, who in our culture is so combative,
right?
So black and white and polarized, and so at each other's throats, so extreme. To have this kneeling heart posture with people is just such a different way to live. I think it can be an incredible witness. That's a good word, posture. That's good stuff.
Well,
maybe that's a good word to end on.
There we go.
Good posture. And it's to circle things around here, easier to kneel in front of people when you got all your toes. So you can keep your balance a little better, but maybe having your feet washed takes a little bit less time if you have one less foot to be washed, one less toe to be washed. And thinking about that other article.
There you go. You know what? Next year, if I run this race with you, we'll have our wives at the end ready with towel and basins.
There you go.
And we'll wash each other's feet.
Well, I'll tell you, Andrea usually
in front of all those people.
My wife usually runs these with me.
Oh, really?
So she's pretty hardcore. She runs them with me.
Well, maybe I could convince Amanda.
There you
Although,
go.
could we find something that's not like 15 miles long, like or 10 or whatever?
15 miles. It's 15K, so 10, a little less than 10 miles.
Somewhere around the 3 to 4 mile range.
Right. Well, we'll see. All right, dude. Scott, thanks for the good conversation today, man. It was fun to chat.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for our episode this month, BIC Life Podcast. And if you have any questions about this, questions for us, or thoughts about, if you have stories from foot washing services in your church, we would love to hear them. Maybe share them on a future episode. Reach out to us at biclifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, biclifepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks for listening. Thanks for checking in, and we'll see you next time, or you'll hear us next time. However you imbibe of this particular podcast.
That's right. Hey, see you later.
See you, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the BIC Life Podcast. Brethren in Christ churches exist to follow Jesus, serve others, and make disciples. If you're looking for more information about the BIC denomination, or if you're looking for one of our local churches, head over to bicus.org. And if you'd like to get in touch with us at the podcast, you can do so by emailing us at biclifepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.